Well, with me in the studio, Dr. Eytan Cohen. Yanarocak is a Turkey expert at the Moshe Dayan Center at Tel Aviv University. Welcome, Eytan.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. President Erdoğan, he waited 5 full days before he spoke out about these pretty massive protests, not just in Istanbul, but in cities across the country. Do you think he underestimated the reaction to Mayor İmamoğlu's arrest?
Well, I really don't think that he underestimated. I think this is a very well calculated strategy, and he just waited and, he just adopted the strategy of wait and see. Because, of course, he, I assume that he expected such mass demonstrations, because at the end of the day, you are jailing the most charismatic personality in the entire opposition camp, who could really threaten your, chair at the end of the day. And at the end, first they took him to the custody, then they jailed him. They even tried to tag him with, unbelievable accusations, like he became a terror organization leader, a crime leader. And then they made a U-turn and only...
they dropped the terrorism case completely.
Yes. And thanks to that, now the Turkish state will not going to nominate... they are not going to nominate someone else for the Istanbul municipality as a mayor, but instead the vice mayor will...
his deputy will take over.
Yeah, his deputy will replace him.
Because the timing of this is really interesting, right? Because İmamoğlu's party was about to hold a primary contest, and he was expected to win that, and that would have put him on a direct track to compete with Erdoğan for the presidency.
If Erdoğan could let that happen, we could also see the mayor of Ankara. Maybe he could challenge him as well. But in current circumstances, mayor of Ankara, of course, he's not going to do that. Of course, people will going to unite, next to İmamoğlu, and he turned him into a hero. We should also admit this. For him, Erdoğan turned these things much more difficult for himself. But we should not underestimate also Erdoğan's strategy. At the end, we have 2 more years for elections in Turkey. With this current move, we are seeing that he did eliminate his most important political rival. And when we are looking at the big picture, I really don't think that, yes, these protests are very impressive. I must admit, I did not expect so many people will go to the streets.
The Gezi Park protests, right?
Yeah, but I really don't think that they will be able to change something. And this is the main problem, because at the end of the day, when we are looking at the legislative is controlled by Erdoğan, judiciary is controlled by Erdoğan. He is the executive himself, right? He is controlling the press more or less. He already deterred the business people. Only 2 months ago approximately, he threatened to jail them. And besides that, because of the coup attempt, we also saw that the Turkish army is no longer functioning as the watchdog of the republic as it was before.
So there are no
checks and balances in Turkey
anymore.
Because
the Turkish army historically has been seen as the guardian of the secular nature of the state, right? And it has been behind coups in the past.
Of course,
but that's changed.
Yeah, of course, we cannot speak about, in a democratic country, you cannot speak about the army as the check and balance mechanism. But in Turkey, it functioned as a sort of check and balance mechanism. But in today's Turkey, you do not have media as a watchdog. You do not have business circles as a watchdog. No army, no press, no judiciary. So I'm asking to you, Laura, as an ordinary citizen, these people, they only have these mass demonstrations and their presence in the city centers. They are not capable of imposing a general strike and paralyzing country's economy, for instance, or shutting down the airports or something like that. I'm asking to you, how will they going to achieve their goals? And let me also add another important thing. Erdoğan also, within the years, he also formed his own revolutionary guards. that we all know that he formed the neighborhood Bekçi forces. He has the police special forces. He has his own presidential reinforcement forces. So I'm asking to you, what are all these forces for? Okay, for these kind of occasions. For these kind of occasions, he still did not use them. He's still using the ordinary police forces.
So, you see, similar to the Basij, for example, in Iran.
If the things will get more serious, so he will not hesitate, and he's also going to use these cards as well.
Okay. Just talking about the timing, I mean, the timing is interesting in terms of what's happening on the inside, but also externally, Turkey is trying to move closer to Europe at the moment because Europe needs Turkey's help to defeat Russia in the war against Ukraine. And Turkey had made lots of noises about, you know, Europe, you need us, potentially talking about EU accession talks once again. I mean, this is not the kind of country that could join Europe.
Indeed, we are talking about EU accession talks, but not on basis of values and norms, but instead on the basis of security concerns. Today, most of the countries in the European Union and Turkey are under the umbrella of NATO, right? But after this friction between Donald Trump and Zelensky in the White House, we may see the dissolution of the NATO alliance. And in case of a dissolution of the NATO alliance, the Europeans will have two options. Or they will have their own European Union army, which will not include Turkey, and which will most probably will create a new headache for the European Union. Or they will have a new NATO without the United States, and they may include Turkey.
Turkey's the number 2 in NATO already.
That's why we do not hear any criticism a real criticism from the European capitals other than Athens. And Athens is Athens, and because of this rivalry and security concerns between the two countries, so we heard about the Greek criticism, but it is not reflecting the European policy towards Turkey.
If you compare it to previous criticism of Turkey, it is very muted, isn't it?
It's nothing. I mean, it's nothing. Yeah.
Dr. Eytan, Cohen, Yanarocak, always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.